Guys, I was thinking I'm contributing quite a bit to the US economy. I think if I was a superhero, my superhero name would be Consumer Man. I am spending so
Why is
much money. I'm spending so much money on dumb shit, man. Like meta ads were created for people like me. Like, oh, people like Azil will buy something. You guys made fun of me about the canes and everything. That was all through meta ads, man. The targeting works for me. People may pay for impressions with you guys, but with me, they'll get some acquisition. Do you guys have the same problem?
What's your latest purchase?
Oh, latest purchase. I re-downloaded TikTok for some reason, and then there was a couple of TikTok shop things that worked on me, and then I was like, I gotta delete this app again.
You are
Well,
singularly responsible for inflation. That's what's happening.
Yeah, no, it's seriously dumb stuff that we're all spending money on, and prepping for this episode, I told you guys, like, okay, this is my week, this is what I want to talk about. I got to tell you guys what went into what led up to me wanting to do this episode. So look, unless you're in the top 0.5% of wealthiest Americans, you're probably noticing a rise in expenses. I mean, inflation definitely has something to do with it, but not entirely. If you simply look at like where we spend money, even just for our kids, right? Like you guys have kids now, like I have kids. The things we spend money on, our parents would never, like never. I mean, they would, hand-me-downs was the way to go. And we are like, no, should I get this $1,000 stroller or $1,200 stroller? And like, we splurge for the $1,200 one. Yeah, I mean, it's silly stuff. Even something small, like tennis shoes. Were you guys like this too? Like when you'd start the school year, you would get one pair of tennis shoes and you pretty much run those down to the end of the school year. You didn't get additional ones throughout the year. There was no like sneaker con or no like sneaker game. You just wore basic Nikes throughout the year and just run them as long as possible. Same with jeans and things like that. I looked at my son's shoe shelf. He has like 10 shoes. He's growing every month. Like, I have no idea why we have so many shoes for a 2-year-old. Do you guys have this problem? Do you guys not notice this?
But it's not. But I don't think it's him wanting the shoes. It's you wanting to get it for him.
Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is like people are spending money on so many things now, right? Like we're just like even our parents have evolved, right? Like they all used to drive Camrys and Toyota Siennas. And like, especially brown parents, they would wear the free lotto t-shirts from the convenience store, right? Or like the ones that like the tobacco companies would give. And now those same parents are wearing Vineyard Vines, driving Mercedes S-classes, carrying luxury bags. Like, I think there's like something that's happened consumerism wise that has just spread. Of course, there's some social media to it, some other things, but I think from the top down, I don't know if our kids are just going to completely revolt and go the opposite way, but I don't know, man. We're just spending a lot. It's capitalism after all, right? Like brands create demand and then they sell the heck out of it. And then fools like me will buy it. So it's I don't know. You got to please make me feel better.
The exact reason. Safe to say it's the exact reason why we all have a job and we can put food on the table. Thank you guys for buying into brands and believing the story.
You know, and it's really funny because when you go into these like play dates and stuff, and it's usually the dads that are like, oh, you know, my wife spent money on this and that, and Ashi, like my wife, she'll look at me, roll her eyes because she doesn't want to call me out, but I'm that guy. I'm that person in the relationship that spends more money. So look. This is enough of a setup. Okay, I got to tell you guys, let's let the listeners know what we're talking about today because everything seems very random right now. I feel like I'm going on a frugal rant. But this episode, I wanted us to talk about the brands that created whole categories. And these are categories that did not exist before. So what led up to this idea was like, there's a lot of things we spend money on today that we didn't before, right? And there's some things that have phased out, but there's a lot of splurging that happens today that didn't happen before. So, all of us have kind of prepared some brands that we're going to talk about and how they've like created whole categories. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's hit it.
Let's do it.
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Madmen.
You're mad.
The man's mad.
Madmen.
I'm mad.
All right, Samir, I think you got a cool one. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, I got a fun one. I'm unpacking a giant in the retail world. And yes, unpacking is a pun. A brand that transformed a mundane task into an adventure. I'm talking IKEA. We've talked about IKEA in the past, but I'm going to give some perspective on how they've created an entire new category. So grab that assembly manual and that little Allen key because we're going to piece together how IKEA created this entire category of flat packed panel. It starts in 1943. Swedish company, a young entrepreneur started a mail order business, but they were selling matches, fish, Christmas trees, and then eventually furniture. The idea was simple yet revolutionary: offer quality furniture at low prices, something that was nearly unheard of at the time. So, furniture shopping back then was often for the wealthy. It was expensive, it was bulky, and buying it was annoying. You'd go to a showroom, pick your furniture that you liked, order your furniture, and then wait months for it to arrive. Enter IKEA, flipping the model on its head by introducing flat pack furniture. This means lower prices, self-service, and products that you could take home the same day. It was a bold move that required customers to be part of the assembly process, but damn, did it pay off. The strategy that fueled IKEA's success tapped into an insight about the satisfaction of building something with your own hands. The whole DIY aspect wasn't just about saving money, or the unfortunate results of flat pack furniture. DIY was the promise. It was about giving those who enjoy building stuff themselves, like me, the satisfaction to do so with affordable, stylish furniture. Now, I work at a commerce marketing agency, so this is an amazing case study for me personally. We saw a brand who saw a major flaw in the shopping experience of a category and built the product around that. We often usually see the new product being created, right? The opposite. We see innovation first, and then comes the enhanced shopping experience. Think consumer tech like Apple or Samsung, or even fashion, where you're innovating a product first, and then came the beautiful shops. Banking, financial services came first, and then came Capital One cafes. But IKEA recognized the painful experience it was to buy furniture and then created an innovative product that fits the desired shopping experience. Let's fast forward to today. IKEA is the world's largest furniture retailer. And this business model really built the foundation to get into e-commerce with the internet boom, making them really hard to beat. Not to mention, their brand is fantastic. It's a blend of cultural pride, sustainability, and it seems to really understand consumers, rooted back to understanding the consumer challenge that was shopping this category. They got that iconic blue and yellow theme. They got Swedish meatballs in their cafeteria. IKEA is one of two non-tech brands to crack the top 10 in global brand health rankings. And the other brand is Nike. That's how powerful of a brand IKEA is. So that was a whole new world to me to see IKEA innovate, but built the entire product around the shopping experience versus the opposite. And they're massive today.
Yeah, IKEA is definitely a pioneer with this stuff. And I still, honestly, I mean, we can go to other furniture places, but it's just cool to walk around IKEA. It's quite the disruption for sure.
Let's shift gears to a brand that only created a category, but electrified it potentially. Yep, it's gonna be a pun day today for sure. Let's talk Tesla. Before Tesla, electrical vehicles were more of a novelty and highly criticized for being impractical and slow. But Elon came in and basically changed the game. Tesla changed the game entirely. It started with the launch of Tesla Roadster in 2008, which shattered the image of EVs just generally, right? They were now high-performance sports car, electrified. They were sexy. They were fast. It was a whole new ballgame for EVs. And then the masterclass is here to create demand is not an existing. The masterclass is how he created demand for a non-existent category by focusing on what people thought is impossible and delivering dreamers' dreams. And if you remember, they capitalized on early adopters, tech-savvy people, environmentalists, wealthy people, and they built this community of this brand that basically at that time had no marketing, for the record. And then they launched the Model S, right? His evolution was like, hey, let me go sell to it. Let's go validate the market. Let's go make it sexy and make it attractive to the wealthy and then bring the price down. It with smaller options and milled it all the way from Model S to Model 3 to Model Y, and then basically call it sexy at the end of the day. If you don't know, that's the acronyms of all the cars. That's the Tesla strategy. It was not just about selling cars, but it was about selling a vision of the future. And you see that in other things, but also, the idea of sustainability, technology advancement, and full electric. And now Tesla is valued at way above any other car manufacturer in the market today, and it continues to just keep growing.
Yeah, Tesla's a good case study on what I think the rest of the industry in auto was focusing on, like R&D and engineering and fuel efficiency. Like, how do we make every drop of gasoline go further? Tesla wanted to play double down and play on a completely alternative method of fuel, and I think that was like the huge differentiator. And like you said, like commercializing it and expediting and accelerating the entire electric movement to now where all those automakers who thought they were ahead of technology are now playing catch up. They were putting all of their money in making fuel efficient, not fuel alternative. So good move, Tesla.
Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. They did. I mean, there was electric cars before. I mean, BMW was there, and there was a few other in Europe and stuff. But when you talk about creating a category where the entire company can be just that, and not just like a option, it is Tesla mastered it, and they really spoke to the hippie and so many say, with the license, built some like social cause behind it, and then it in turn made a community around it and everything, and now they're mass producing cars at like such an alarming rate where it's definitely not healthy for the environment. But when it came to the category of electric cars, it put the pressure on so many others, and it gave birth to so many electric cars too, like Lucid Air, Rivian. These all came because of Tesla. So I think the common theme we're going to see today in all of our stories is like how the community then, like, there was a community that was born because of the category they created. That kind of leads me into mine, which is Lululemon. So I was talking to this Louis Vuitton associate years ago, like when I was in college, and I had just had a question. I was like, how do you know someone's going to come in and spend some money? And she had a really interesting response. Her response, I thought she was going to say, oh, like they already carry a Lululemon, a Louis Vuitton bag, or they're dressed to the nines, like, have a nice dress on, or like, something, right? Like the interesting answer from her was that she knows that someone's going to drop some money when they walk in with activewear on. And this is before like the Lululemon phenomenon. I mean, it was there, but not as the way we see Lululemon today. She was talking about, in particular, if she thinks they play tennis, she knows that they're gonna drop some dough. And so Lululemon, I think, capitalized on that philosophy. So in 1998, Lululemon started, and they set out to create this elite association through activewear. And people who live a leisure life, it's not because they're lazy, but because they can. They have money, they have other people doing work for them, and they like to spend their time doing leisurely things like working out, playing tennis, things like that. Well, Lululemon saw an opportunity. They said, let's say goodbye to gym clothes, right? The sweaty, like cotton clothes that everyone would wear. And they said, let's work on some patented fabric. They call it Luon or something like that. And they rode this like white horse of yoga enthusiasts to what Lululemon became today. So they introduced the $88 legging that we all know. And it was, for the time, I don't know if you guys remember, but it was an obscene price for activewear. Like, you would not splurge on activewear. It is something that you would get, like, you would wear old t-shirts that were the free t-shirts that you'd get from whatever things, and you just wear random stuff, right? You go to Ross and get a few things and things like that. But they introduced this legging, and the elites adopted pretty fast. And they used this rise of yoga as their being the must-have brand when you do want to look like a yogi. So they started doing yoga classes in their stores. And then imagine like an elite shopping center, Beverly Hills or whatever, and you see women walking around with rolled yoga mats under their arm, with just affluent women, right? Like, and wearing tight leggings and sports bras and things like that, people are going to want to know what's up. Like this is not, we're in the fashion business and we know what the cost of these leggings are. But even me and my wife fall to the Lululemon trap. And it's the same leggings today. The $88 ones are now 118. So inflation has hit. It's not like they just absorbed all that inflation and said, "Oh, we have competition now." I mean, if you look at it, they gave birth to so many competitors. Aloe, Fabletics, Athleta, Abercrombie has one too. It's YPB. Like all those have come because of Lululemon. So this is truly a category they've created, and they continue to get more and more expensive. So what's awesome to see is like they evolved from this yoga brand to be a leisure lifestyle brand. And so now I recently bought a blazer from Lululemon, believe it or not, like for work. It's insane that it's had such a successful bridge to leisure lifestyle. So yes, consumer man bit the bullet and did it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, man. Half my my pants are they have the, what is it, ABC pants or whatever, the like somewhere between chinos and like athletic wear pants. I've got like 5 or 6 pairs in different colors because they're just easy to throw on. You can put on a polo and go with it. So I think, hey, look, they created this affluent band, and it's awesome, and people wear it, people buy it, people have like a cult following for it almost, and we hold, their customer, we hold, events at their places and stuff, and they're building like this, you talk about experience, they're building an experiential center here in Houston. It's like 4 stories of like workout studio and then a store, which is kind of have like premier products or something. And then they have their offices here, right? It'll be interesting to see. I do want to touch, I'll let Samir go, and then I want to touch back on that yoga pants Louis Vuitton conversation real quick. But Samir, I don't know if you have any comments on Lululemon.
No, it's the only one that comes to mind is, if you're a pioneering brand when one of the most popular searches for athleisure is Lulu dupes, and that's how you get exposed to all of the competition. So if you need any indicator about how powerful of a brand you've created in the category that you've created, it's the dupe word, right? It's if you associate yourself with your dupe, you've done your job well.
So let's go back to that conversation about the Louis Vuitton and the yoga pants, because I think it's so true, and I didn't know it didn't click to me until you said that, right? Like I have a similar story of somebody that's been trying to get a Rolex watch, and you know how Rolex is really hard to get, and this guy's went into the store like 4 or 5 times and couldn't even get anything. And the day he walked in with his wife, who was wearing Lululemon pants right after a workout, he got offered a watch. Because the lady looked at her and was like, okay, these guys have money, and they looked it up and found out who this person was and all that stuff. But it's an interesting how perception of like clothing brands are different, right? Because you wouldn't think that a luxury, like walking in on Lululemon is not like a luxury brand per se, right? Versus like a Louis Vuitton or a Prada or something. But it's understanding the persona of the person that would be willing to spend, which is interesting outlet. I don't know. I just wanted to.
It reminds me of this TikTok guy that I've seen who has all of these scenarios of what it means to look and be rich versus wealthy. And, rich people are the ones that are carrying all the flashy bags and the glamour and all of that. But the wealthy people are wearing the simple, basic stuff and just trying to blend in. But those sales guys at Louis, that they know how to read that. So good on them.
Is it rich versus super rich? Is that what I remember that guy?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. All right. I'll take us into the next one, who gave wings to a whole new product category, Red Bull. Let's crack this one open and see what bubbles up. Like you said, it's a day of puns. Red Bull was inspired by an existing Thai energy drink, but wanted to take it global. Started back in 1980, not super long ago, but imagine a world where energy drinks don't exist. People relied on just traditional caffeinated beverages for that pick-me-up. We're talking coffee, tea, and soda. Red Bull entered the scene with a bang, with energy drinkers tailored to increase endurance, mental alertness, and overall energy levels. Their launch strategy was bold and unconventional. It targeted a youthful, adventurous demographic, think students, athletes, professionals who needed an edge, and the brand became synonymous with extreme sports and high-energy lifestyles, which fostered a strong community around adrenaline-pumping events and built an entire brand around that. Red Bull is a perfect brand who launched as a functional brand, but sustained as a lifestyle brand. The product itself was super different. The liquid itself had differentiation. It even had a compelling proposition, immediate energy boost. But building a brand that is more than just about the product itself is what made Red Bull big and sustainable. Today, Red Bull is still dominant, but faces a ton of competition from global giants. Not to mention the demand spaces that they play are often being taken over by non-energy drinks, ready to drink coffee, energy shots, even caffeinated waters, or then this whole phase of clean energy products. Red Bull still invests in content its audience loves, sponsors extreme sports, and they run a media house that produces music, TV, and film. But it's a good lesson for all of you out there thinking about creating a brand yourself. Don't make it just about function. Your product needs to be interesting, but your brand needs to be more than just about your product. And I think that's where we see a lot of product launches fail, is that when you establish and try to build a brand just around the differentiation of your product, it's not going to sustain. People need more. People need to see depth to the brand beyond the function. You can have the best quality this or the cleanest ingredient that, but it doesn't matter unless you're telling a story with it. And Red Bull, I think, is a masterclass at who did that with what was a really different product back then, which launched an entire massive energy category. If you go into any C-store today, count how many cooler doors you see that are energy versus any other category. And you're probably going to see more energy than you're going to see soda. And all of this started because of what Red Bull did to this category and introducing it in such a lifestyle way. So Red Bull, I'm all about the wings. It's good stuff.
So let's talk about revolutionizing urban mobility, and nobody else better to revolutionize it than Uber. Let's talk about Uber and how it transformed urban transportation. Uber didn't just create a new product, it created a whole new way of living. How many times have you heard of people who don't have a car themselves living in the big cities and move around cities and city just in an Uber? That simple concept of tapping your smartphone to summon a ride became a cultural phenomenon and continues on today. And the real innovation wasn't the actual, the idea, but the innovation comes from the platform that connected drivers and passengers directly, bypassing traditional transportation logistics, regulatory frameworks, and the model is not just offered unprecedented convenience. It's efficient, it's significantly lower cost, and the idea of risk is very minimal, right? Now you know who the driver is, you know who's showing up, you know the license plate numbers, you know everything, they're tracking you. I mean, Uber leveraged technology to address a key consumer pain point, availability, safety, and reliability, all in one shot, and basically opened up the market to a whole new impact for consumers. So Uber's impact extends beyond just ride sharing. It sparked the gig economy, right? And now you've got people that are just redefining urban mobility, setting the stage for future innovations on how we commute. Now you've got things about automated cars coming out. And you've got other gig economies that are opening up because of car ride share. You've got the Uber Eats now that's opened up. You've got competitors that are opening up the market with Lyft and DoorDash. And these are all sparked by Uber's innovation around the mobility that they created. And they continue to dominate that. Everybody just calls it Uber. I don't know the last time anybody said, hey, let me go grab a taxi. They just say, hey, let's go grab an Uber. Even if they're using Lyft, they still say Uber.
Uber is
interesting.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you go.
So have you guys seen that show on, I don't know if it's only on Netflix, but it's called Super Pumped. And it's like the start of Uber. And it's like just getting the masses to adopt this philosophy and how much money they had to lose early on. Just to subsidize rides and make it seem like the affordable option. It's really, and I don't know if you guys knew, Uber is like started off as a step up above taxis with black car service only. And then Lyft gave the pressure to allow for Uber X. So Uber X came after Lyft was like anyone's car could be ride shared.
Rideshare as a category to me is really interesting, but I have a bone to pick with rideshare as a category. 15 years of Uber and rideshare. Last year was the first year they turned a profit. Lyft has yet to earn a profit. And yet we've seen them completely disrupt how we move, right? Salim, you hit it right on, right? There has been entire lifestyle changes revolving around this inefficient business model that is ride sharing. And it blows my mind that this has now become a standard of an experience that we need. And it's in a business model that is in a rut. So that to me is telling that what we are now all used to for having 15 years of rideshare services available to us, that we've gotten used to this level of comfort in an inefficient business model that may not sustain long term. So Uber definitely like pioneered this whole thing. They blew it up, made it mainstream, and got us all used to it. But I am sure as hell concerned about the business that is Uber and that is ride sharing. The genius move was to getting into food delivery, right? That is where so much of their operating profit is coming from. Lyft just fails to diversify themselves, and they are continually getting them deeper and deeper in a hole because they are choosing to not get into other forms of utilizing the demand services. They just want to be rides, and it's not working for them. So definitely a category to watch in the next few years to see like where this goes, because we've gotten hella used to and comfortable with this. But there's going to be some point where this is not going to be there because businesses just can't operate with this.
What do you think? I guess we're all in the business world, right? A little bit here and there. Like, what is the reason why Uber can't turn a profit? Like, there's so many things that I look at when I look at Uber as a business, and you look at like just the operational efficiencies. Like, it's just there's so much cost involved in this operation that it just seems like it's inefficient, and there's somebody that's just can't make the hard decisions, can't do the Elon thing, right? Go in to Twitter and just cut out people that don't need to be there. Add technology aspects, right? They're a technology company, which probably is sitting on like 15-year-old technology is still working, right? Like, are they being efficient? Are they utilizing AI? Is that one? But then the other thing that always comes to me is just this regulatory pressure, right? They've got all this now. They came in and kind of went looped around the regulatory. Now they're all in like legal battles, right? Which is also increasing costs, right? So I agree with you. It's a weird model for, and I don't get, they work on a negative capital, right? And that model is just so weird to me. Like, I've never worked for a company that doesn't make money, so I don't know that model. But I see them all. We invest in them all, but it's just so weird.
I agree. I don't get it either. Adil, you go.
Yeah, it really made. I think a lot of their money loss was probably from opening new markets too. I mean, their whole mentality was expansion, expansion, expansion. Like at one point, I think Amazon said that it cost them $1 billion to open in a new market, right? And for a long time, they were not profitable because of the marketing, the leadership, everything that would go into opening a new market. And that was a big concern. It's like, why are they losing so much money over this? But I think that was mainly Uber's thing. I don't know why Lyft is still not profitable, because they seem to be going the opposite way, not opposite way, but like much more stealth and like, managed growth. And the fact that they're still not profitable is weird. I'm just surprised. Like, I can understand Uber is just hyper growth, hyper expansion, and that's cost money. I don't know.
When do shareholders?
You go.
I said, when do the shareholders get a say of this, right? Like, when is expansion not enough, right? Like, you're almost in like every other country that I can think of. Half the times I go across the globe and I just go to Uber and just see, hey, can I get an Uber first, right? But like, when does I don't know. We're not finance guys, so I don't know how to answer that question either. Or board members, but it's just crazy to think that you can continue to grow and get cash. People are investing in you, or public markets investing in you to raise capital so you can go lose money year after year after year after year.
Spotify did it. Airbnb did it until 2022. I think there's a repeating pattern here about all of this innovation that what I think came out of the 2008 financial crisis was like all of these like really unique business models that sounded really appealing, got to massive scale, and then it sort of became like too big to die. So it just kept continuing to fund money through and through with the hopes of trying to be profitable. I think Spotify finally turned a profit in the last couple of years too. Like, I think I think this is a good topic, Adil, to choose this, because it was, a really eye-opening to see how all these brands got started in creating their own category. But for any of you guys out there thinking kind of in the entrepreneurial path, and if you have an idea that revolves around starting your own category, it's a really good lesson to teach, right? Like, if you look at all these brands and trying to understand whether your product fits the market when the market doesn't exist. How do you measure success? How do you test it? How do you grow and scale? I think these have prompted really interesting questions for anybody out there who has a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit to see, like, what do I do with this idea that nobody has thought of? It also means that it hasn't been tested and there's no one doing this. And just, you got to be brave and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I think there's a very famous interview going around right now where Mark Zuckerberg is saying, like, don't be obsessed with creating a company, be obsessed with solving a problem. And I think, you know, while some of these weren't problems, like, I don't think there was a problem for yoga wear. There was like a problem with sweaty clothes, right? And like it was not sexy you could never look sexy after a workout, but Lululemon turned that on its head, right? So I guess they did solve some sort of problem, but I have a really cool one that I want to share with you guys. It's called plunge. So look, cold plunging is not a new thing. Like I don't know if you guys did Boy Scouts, but we did this thing called polar bear swims, and you'd wake up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and you go jump in like ice cold lake. And it's been done by cultures for millennia. So cold plunging is not new. But this company called Plunge created this insane need for these bathtubs in your house and or on your porch, not porch, but like in your backyard. So the CEO and the co-founder, his name is Ryan Dewey. He's in the same entrepreneurs group as me called Hampton, and he kind of gave his spiel on like a little bit how they started. They started in his co-founder's garage, September 2020. So most of in California. So most people were still locked up. And they kind of had this idea that what if we create this tub looking thing and make it look really good, and they would have a filtration system and this and that. So they really went out to create the jacuzzi of cold plunge. And their method was like, they're going to highlight the science behind everything. So, reduction of inflammation, improved mood, overall faster recovery of muscles and things like that. And then they also sent a bunch to athletes and celebrities. And of course, they documented their chilling dives, right? So they documented how they would go in the mornings and do stuff. If you even do hashtag cold plunge on TikTok or Instagram, you see some really inspirational ones. So even though they may not be using the plunge, they may even be using like a horse trough, right? With just ice water in it. But the phenomenon started because of this company. And they really took the Peloton concept of having this like wellness fixture in your house, and it looks sexy, like where it creates conversation. It creates like an elevated look. Going back to the Tesla example, their Tesla Roadster, so their first edition is like 10 grand. Right. So it's like the plunge all in one. And then their Model S, which is like the more economical one, is like 7 grand. And now they have their Model 3, which is like a rubber one, much like, I think it's like 3 or 4 grand. But the point is that they've democratized this. Like, so they started off with a very sexy one, and then they said, okay, we're going to make it more achievable, and, or more attainable. And they've done that. And so plunge has created quite the category. I implore you guys to go on Instagram and just look at plunge, the plunge Instagram. You will definitely get served a ton of ads for cold plunges afterwards, because there are so many now. Just so many companies trying to do what plunge has been able to do. Plunge also is like expanding horizontally. It's not just cold plunges. They have a really cool sauna that they've worked on. So it's called the plunge sauna, and just a small little differentiator that they've put into it. And it's really neat. So I think this company has definitely created a category of its own. Have you guys cold plunged before?
I have, but not with the OG plunge brand before. I'm all about dupes, right?
What do you 6-pack to own this thing? Because everybody on this Instagram has a 6-pack.
Don't you have a 6-pack?
The aspiration.
But yeah, like cold plunge, man. I actually haven't ever sat in a cold plunge itself, but I've done like cold plunging in Mexico and different places, like just in the spas, or like there's like the ice bucket drop in some of the like spas that you go to and everything. So, but this was I don't know, like this was kind of cool. There's so many other companies that we could have probably talked about, but we talked about Lululemon, Plunge, Red Bull. We didn't really dive further into Red Bull. I think that would be actually a cool episode, is just how Red Bull has like created its own culture for excitement and adrenaline. And, so that was a really cool dive. Uber for sure. These were all some really good companies, but I think, Samir, you hit it on the head. Like, when any aspiring entrepreneurs, think about how you're creating a category, and then you focus on your brand will build itself, right? So if you create a demand and you fool a bunch of American consumers like me, you can become a billionaire. It can work. So just go make some money, guys. Go create a category. What do you guys say?
Seems like a deal's pockets are always open. That's my biggest takeaway.
I'm gonna start serving Adil ads.
Well, on that note, I'm gonna say stay fabulous, guys. I gotta go spend some money.
See ya.
Men go mad.
Who's gone mad?
Madman.
You're mad.
The man's mad.
Madman.
I'm mad.